It's the weekend, it's Mailbag, and I'm very much looking forward to this. And before I start, lads, what I thought I'd do is, as you know, last time it was the three of us, and Dave, you're so, lovely of you to let me host. I thought what I'd do, and I did an intro. I did an intro, didn't I? And I thought what I'd do, I wanted to do another intro, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I've been made aware this week of the work of John Cooper Clarke, the poet. And I thought, why not bring a bit of sophistication, bit of culture, bit of intelligence to Mailbag. So I've done you both an intro with some poetry. So here we go. I'm going to
Wow.
introduce you both now. So hang on, here we go.
Wasn't
So
expecting this, mate.
so here we go. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, he speaks freely. Sorry, let me start that again. He speaks freely, not dreary, articulates steely. His passion knows no bounds. He's sound. It's great when he's around. To talk the blues and their many flaws, to listen to him is never a chore. The listeners, they chant more, more, more. I'm pleased to say he's on this week's show to go toe to toe with friend, not foe. He'll answer with honesty and he'll not stray from the pack. Good morning to you, the one and only Peter Mack. Pete, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thank you very much for the for,
I'm
for the
gutted with
intro.
that. I'm gutted. I thought
Appreciate
that was
that.
me. I'm absolutely gutted. If mine's
Oh,
not
don't
better than that, I'm going to be fuming.
don't
It
worry,
was
you've
it
got
was
one
too
coming up.
positive to be yours, Dave. I'm really looking forward to your one now.
Good to have you. Good to have you on. And listen, here we go. So here's the second one. The boss, the leader, the inspiration, the timekeeper extraordinaire. I simply won't accept mocking. It's just not fair. He puts in hours, days, months, years to this show. And when we need a hero, he says, let's do it. Let's go. He's sublime, just fine. And when you're in decline, he'll make you feel divine. And an interesting point of view, there's always one with him, although some of his takes can go straight in the bin. Don't be silly. I'm just winding you up. He's obviously my fave. Good morning to you. How are you, mate? The one and only Dave.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant. And do you know what Peter be laughing at there? That I'm a good timekeeper because he's placed me for that, don't you, Pete? Every single day almost.
I think we've all had a bit of a nightmare this morning, haven't we? Just to give
Yeah.
everyone listening an idea, we were meant to do this last night. I think collectively between the three of us, we've had about 45 hours sleep last night.
Yeah, yeah.
We're all absolutely shattered. So Dave put in the group about doing it in the morning today as we record Saturday
Yeah.
morning. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. That's fine. It means I can get to sleep. I think Pete was similar and Dave, I think we've had a bit of a nightmare
Yeah.
this morning trying to get it sorted.
Oh,
But we're finally here. We're here to record. So I've
do
got
you know what though? Do you know what's interesting as well? Like it works out better because like 3 weeks of no Everton games.
hmm,
Like it's not often that that happens in the middle of a season. We've got the international football, which personally I hate it with a
hmm.
passion, absolute passion, and it just shows you how slow the news is when you're talking about the colour of the England badge.
Well,
It's
you lovely segue, Dave, because the
yeah,
thing is, I was going to use that as one of the hot topics to get you to buzz in and answer with
yeah,
Everton players. But the questions that we've had this week, we've had a few of them around that. So I'm going to dive straight into them. I'm going to go for
go
starting
on.
with all them. So we have got a lot of questions, and thanks to everyone who's sent us questions, by the way. But as you can imagine, thing is with this show, we are very topical, and I think when something happens, a lot of the questions revolve around the topic of that week. So it's
Yeah.
great to have them. But I'm going to start with Laura, great old Laura, not old, sorry Laura, not old at all, but great Laura. Um, if you could change the Everton badge in a way that would anger the Dars, what would you do? Well, we've had a bit of previous with this anyway, haven't we? With the 2013, 2014 season
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with the badge change. But Dave, is there anything in particular that you would change from the current badge just to get everyone in absolute hysterics angrily about it?
I think that's such a good question, you know, and I was thinking so many different things about this, and obviously one's has changed the colour of it. I'd probably take the year off it. I think people would cause murder if you took 1878 off any Everton kit. That would be chaos if that happens. St. Rupert as well. I mean, I know it hasn't been on everything that we've had in history, but I just think this edition of 1878, in particular, you'd fit refer to there, the sort of board that we've got to reflect on here is what happens with that one that looked like a cartoon, which is sort of ironic because that was one of my favourite seasons. in a long, long time now when we had that badge. And I remember, I just go over a bit of tangent here. I remember Alan Myers was the chief
Heads of
director of
communications,
communication, yeah.
heads of
And
communications, yeah.
it got knocked down. If you remember this, there was 3 badges that we had to choose from, and one of them was the only one that was very similar to what we've had in the past, like the current one, like we had in the early 90s and all that sort of thing, where it just stayed as it was. Just used to look a little bit, a little bit smaller and things like that. They just altered it tiny, tiny pieces, didn't they, over the years? The other 2, though, I remember the middle one was like a shield. And that was really, really bad. And then lo and behold, the one that the club go for is the one that I think almost every dad that I know despised it, hated it. I'd love to know, I'd love to know the figures in terms of how many of them they sold. But having said that, it's the kind of thing, isn't it? When you go older and older, that'd be priceless to have that kit. But that will go for thousands in an auction now because there's so many people who just binned it or not bought it. I
Well,
reckon that's the kind of thing.
that 2013-14 badge that everyone, I mean, I hated it. I'll go on
Yeah,
record as saying that I thought it was an awful, disgusting badge. But it was, like you said, ironic that we had one of our best seasons in it. I mean,
yeah,
how Everton's that. But I remember the talk at the time going, the one and only year we've got this badge, we're going to finish in the Champions League or we're going to win something. And then
yeah.
that badge will just be there forever then. But yeah, it's
Iconic. Yeah. But
yeah,
that's the thing. That's the thing about it, though. It was the kits we had that season were gorgeous
the
without
Boca
that
Juniors
badge.
one. Do you remember the Boca
Oh, mate,
Juniors away kit?
the yellow
Yeah,
one with the blue,
yeah.
and one of my favourite games was that I went away to Aston Villa,
So I was just
and
about to say, it reminds me of the
yeah,
Villa game, yeah.
it was probably the best moment in Tim Howard's career where he saved that great penalty. That's the only thing I'll say about him that's any good. But Osman and Lukaku
Lukaku.
pretty much scored the exact same goal.
Mm.
And that was one of the best aways I've been to in a long, long time. That kit reflects a lot of that season. And like you say, it felt really fresh, didn't it? Not
There
not
was
not the not the badge, but everything to do with that
kit.
season. So you're sort of always going to relate to it, aren't you? I suppose.
There was a run of away games that year where, particularly at the start, where we just played really well, and we like I
Yeah,
went to the West Ham game, and that's still one of the best away games we've ever been to. We didn't wear the yellow kit that day; we wore the
it's the
white one,
white
which
one,
was
was it?
still a nice kit as well. That one, but I remember
Not the
that was
Baines free kicks, was it?
2 Baines for that was a
Yeah,
special day.
yeah, yeah.
That'll live with me for a long time. Now, anyway, going back to badge gates with the England kit, Pete. What would you do? What could you possibly do, Pete, to Everton's badge to like enrage everyone?
Well, do you know what? I'd do something that would enrage some people, but other people would think it was quite good. But also,
Burn
I'd
it.
I'd manage to enrage not just the Everton stars, but also the Copites, because I'd put a blue liver bird on the badge sitting on top of the tower. Now I've done that before. For I don't know if you've seen Sarah's page, the bird is blue.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
actually done that before, and that goes from I've had that like thing in my head for ages. So yeah, I'd lash a blue liver bird on top of the Everton tower, and then the
Could you
Dars would fume.
imagine the last
But
ever
but
season at Goodison and the new kit is the live of Bluebird on the shirt, the last ever one at
Yeah.
Goodison.
I'd have it on top of the tower. Like I wouldn't just have a pure. But that would be. I mean, at the end of the day, we were the first ones to have it, weren't we? So
Well, I was going to say,
Yeah.
wasn't it a bit of an what am I saying? Not right, but like a what's the word? Like copyright thing about didn't a supporter try to like copyright the Bluebird years ago? If
no,
I made this up,
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, he
yeah,
did. He did.
tried to copyright the Bluebirds and say it was Everton's originally, so you can't sell it. Or so, it's something
Yeah.
like I might be making it up, but I just remember there being like a bit of a campaign at the time. I'm going back maybe 10, 15 years, but
Well,
I
do you
remember
know?
there
I
being a
remember
campaign about it.
one of the best flags that I've seen was it had the blue uh, live bird on it, and it said 1878, the bird. Sorry, the birth, and then what's the
The
Liverpool 18?
afterbirth,
afterbirth.
the
The
afterbirth.
afterbirth. I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
Do
I
you know
think
what?
that's such a good idea. I mean, if there's ever anything to piss them off, it's that. So I
Well,
wouldn't mind us having, it'll probably kick off obviously more Reds than Blues, but I just think any slight change in years gone by will flip a lot of people. Even if you go back, I think, to the ones that, like Les would love this question, when you go back to early 90s and it was just EFC on it and all that. I'd love to see that personally, but I think you'd get younger fans who'd be like, "What's this?" Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't like it because it's not a modern day reflection on what you see these days. I mean, you look at every single club has probably changed their badge. I remember Arsenal's badge when it changed, when they started in like early 2000s. They had a lovely badge with loads of different things on it, like ours in many ways, when they had the reefs on it and stuff like that. And they changed theirs rapidly. And I think it looks always look brilliant. Arsenal, I think Arsenal done like brilliant kits and marketing and stuff like that. So I think there's a place for it. But I do think that there's a high percentage of our fans who would absolutely flip it if there's a considerable change.
I think I'd love to see some sort of Merseyside level rage that there has been nationwide lately with this England kit, and I think let's go for it. Let's put a blue bird on the kit next season. Last season at Goodison. Just quickly on the badge changes, Dave. I agree with you. I think Arsenal had a really Chelsea as well. I thought Chelsea was always quite iconic, but apparently I read somewhere. You know the way we've still got the word Everton written on our badge, and there was a lot of people saying, "Well, I'd just take the word Everton out," because my personal favourite badge was the early 90s with just Rupert's Tower, the wreaths, Nil Satis on it. But apparently the Premier League, for all their marketing and copyright and digital and all this, whatever it is, graphic design, whatever, you have to have a badge that can be like easily obtained, shall I say, like within graphics, to put on like the TV, or to put on logos, or to put on like websites and stuff. So that's the reason why I think a lot of them have had to change, because a lot of the old badges, because they were so intricate with like what you were saying there about the different whatever's on them, what each club had, it wasn't easy to create digitally because it was so small, some of them. So I think
I
that's the
think
reason.
that's spot on, because
I
that's what
think,
happened when that weird looking one came along, because it had Everton in the middle of it. I
yeah,
think you're right, because if you look at West Ham, I think they have London
yeah.
bizarrely in theirs.
And it's a
But I think
very
you're spot on
simplistic,
when
it's very simplistic badge. It's nice, but it's very
yeah,
simplistic, and it's got London because it's easy. I read somewhere about it because remember at the time when we had the dodgy badge and everyone saying, "Can't we just go back?" And it came out that it was like, no, we have to have a badge that it's Premier League, like, of course it is, but it was Premier League like rules or something. You have to have
it
this
has to be inside the
certain
shape or something.
something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not technical with it. We've got a few mates of the show who were more, working that line of profession,
yeah.
so they'd be able to give us more of an idea. But yeah, but listen, just moving on slightly. I mean, it has caused for me. This has just been ridiculous. I mean, I know a few people have commented about this badge malarkey and all this, and it's just another for me, another distraction away from real issues. But we have got a few questions around it, so I'll rattle through a few of them because we've got a lot of questions on the same thing. But I'll go to Sam, who's been on the show before as well. Sam White says, "What new
Yeah.
image or motif would you add to the England kit?"
That's a cracking one, that. I think what I've seen today, I think everyone will flip it, and everyone has the same sort of feeling towards them. That Tommy Robinson dickhead, that EDL gobshite. I don't know if you've seen on his Twitter, a lot of people have been retweeting it because, like, obviously, there's a market for him, sadly, and he's put an image of St George on a horse with a knife and the English
Baseball
flag.
bat or something on it, yeah.
You'd like that.
Did you see the Paddy Power tweet? And it was I mean, I listen. I think that it's a bit too much banterish to sometimes Paddy Power, but
Yeah.
I thought it was good yesterday. What they put 4 pictures of an alternative thing, and they put one of them was a Stone Island badge, one of them was the fella punching the horse at Newcastle, another one was Del Boy falling down the bar. Like, what
Yeah,
about these iconic English motifs we could
yeah,
have on the shirt instead of that?
yeah,
It just, I mean, I thought that was brilliant, just considering
yeah.
the furore around it. Pete, what would you do to the England kit? What image would you have on there that represents the fine country of England?
I don't know. I'd have like a embroidered giant gammon or something like,
Yeah.
like on the
Oh, by
back
the
of
way,
it.
before you ask that question, or what?
Yeah,
I think in general, yeah, and I'm not trying to stereotype many blues here, but I absolutely cannot stand England as an international force. And the only thing, this is quite bizarre, my own personal preference here, but I don't mind England in rugby. I don't mind
Mm,
England in cricket. And I don't mind England in, I don't know, tennis. Anything like that, I don't mind it. But when it
mm,
comes to football, I absolutely despise England. I cannot stand them. I wish it didn't exist. Partly because there's an Everton reason for that, because most of our players end up leaving because they're half decent to get into the England squad, and
yeah.
obviously they're going to be talking like you can go like remember Michael Ball, yeah, he got off. You think about players that Rooney, do you know what I mean? That and I think obviously something like that will happen with Brantway because he's there with them this week.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, you're talking to people who are in like Champions League games, and you look at Kane, who's banging goals in all over the place. He's going to turn up at a place where he respects a lot of players there. That conversation's inevitable, isn't it? Like when you go to footy yourself and you're talking to your mates about football all the time. There's preferences and all that's one reason why I can't stand them. But what you've just mentioned there about the furore over what happens with that kit colour. I was
Mm,
buzzing when I saw it. I thought it was
yeah.
brilliant because it's going to take out, like Pete mentioned that word, that gammon word. You can tell people just come to the fore, and it's like it's like I don't know, it's like catching fish. Do you know what I mean? You can just pull them out the water and think this is just one of those people who's like proper EDL or something like that. They just and I think it's a Southern thing as well. Many people would say it's a Tory thing as well, wouldn't he? But
I think
we
for
should do a poll. We should do a poll for this,
I
But
think
I
for I
can't.
mean,
International football itself, I'm not a fan of at all. I like when the
I'm
World
the
Cup's
same.
on,
Yeah, generally, yeah. I mean,
but international football,
without going too socio-political or whatever here. I mean, I think there is something to that thing about people from our part of the world and not as engaged with the rest of the country.
correct?
I think there is something in that.
Yeah,
But then I also, I know people who are patriotic and I know people who care who are decent people, and I've got no issue with that. I think I'm along the same lines as you, Dave. I think the England football team I've never been really into massively for a number of reasons, but excuse me. But I think it's weird though because like you, like I don't mind too much the cricket. Like I'll get into the cricket and I'll cheer for the England cricket team. And what I will say as well, when the Lionesses made the World Cup final, I was desperate for
yeah,
them to win.
yeah, yeah.
So it's not so much. I wouldn't say for that reason because I want them to win. I wouldn't say it's not because I'm necessarily don't care. I think there is something about the England football team, and I think there is something about the exclusion of Everton and Liverpool supporters actually from the England fan base. They're not well
Mm.
thought of amongst your your Londoners or your Brummies or whatever. So I think there's something to that, but it is interesting. I think it may be a question that we can look forward to again in the summertime. Because when it comes on the Euros or the World Cup, I'll watch it, but I'm generally not.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's nice watching football and not caring who wins and just enjoying it for what it is. But listen, there's a lot of Evertonians who like England just as
Oh,
much as they
absolutely.
like Everton,
I'll be
and
getting slated by many for what I've said.
yeah,
Many
and
will.
I've
So, you know what I mean?
I've I've got no issue with that. I think just for me personally, I'm a little bit similar to you. I'm going to move on to the next England flag related question. I like this one. This is from Maggie. She says, "How many sheds do you think Sean Dyche destroyed in his personal rage about the New England kit, Pete?"
I don't think he'd be asked, to be honest with you. Is,
No, he
is my
would.
answer. My honest
No, he
answer.
would.
Don't think he'd be asked in the slightest. Not
Think
at
he
He's
might.
all.
I think
gone.
he might
Go
have
on,
had the
sorry.
frown over the brew, mightn't he?
He's gone to B&Q. I'm telling you right now. B&Q, screw fix, anything wood related, mate, and he'd set fire to it. He would be outraged. He'd go in there, destroy everything. He's definitely got a shed in his house as well. He'd rip it to shreds. He'd make a bonfire, and he'd buy every one of the. I can't remember what film it was where someone might remind me of this, where someone hates shirts and they've gone into wherever they are near them. Oh, what film was it? It might have been a sports film where they've gone into somewhere where they buy loads of the shirts that has been associated with them and just takes them all, runs out. It's the Full Monty. The
Oh,
Full
the news
Monty.
when he buys all the
The
papers.
newspapers, yeah, the old
Yeah,
fella on it, Tom
yeah,
Wilkinson. He
yeah.
goes in and gets every single newspaper and just throws them in the bin. I reckon you've got Sean Dyche will go into every single like JD Sports, anywhere that
Grab
does
buy all
Eng-
the kit.
Get them all, mate, and just throw them in with the sheds and just burn a lot of them. He will be gutted. I'd love someone. Obviously, a lot of people watch this, like fellow journalistic friends and all that, and go to the presses these days. I'd love someone to ask him that question. They obviously won't, but that would be amazing, the answer that he gets from him. Obviously, he wouldn't say it publicly either, but privately, if you went for a pint with him, that's all he'd speak about all night. I reckon he'd despise this.
Do you know when the Premier League returns next week and they do when they do the press conferences with all the managers, and normally they ask something that's like they ask about their own club first, don't they? And then towards the end they'll ask something to do with what's maybe happened in, and I think that'll be the question to all the managers, especially the English managers this week, is what do you think about the new kit? But listen, in the final question related to this news story, it's from our own Les, and he says, "What's the most trivial thing that triggers you?" And I'll start with this before I lead on to you, Pete. Do you know what I can't stand, and it really triggers me and puts me in a terrible mood? Do you know when you go to the supermarket and maybe you've just nipped in to buy like 3 or 4 bits because you just, something for your tea. So you need mushrooms and you're cooking a spag bol. You need mushrooms, you need peppers, you need some onions. So I'll just go in the shop and I'll get them a second. And you go in, you grab your bits. The self-servicing's busy or whatever. So you think I'll just go to the checkout, and there's someone in front of you who's done their big shop, and they've got like £300 worth of shopping, and you've got to stand there and wait, and they just don't think to turn around and go, "You've only got them bits, go ahead of me," and you've got to wait for them to finish, and they're standing looking at you, and they won't even just go, "Oh, just go in front of me, you've only got them, go on, you go ahead of me." That happened to me recently, and that really, really winds me up. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean nothing, but that triggers me. Pete, is there anything really trivial that triggers you?
I don't even know whether it's trivial, but I just hate rude people, to be honest with you. Everything about people who are just rude. So like, say if you hold a door open for someone and they don't say thank you,
Oh,
or like if I'm walking the dog and it's like a thin sort of like path, so I'll move off to the side to let someone pass, like clearly to like make an effort to move past. If someone walks past me, then without saying thank you, I find that like so rude, like so rude. But yeah, then being I hate it when people talk as well. I hate people talking just in general to me, but I hate it when people talk during like films or TV or anything like
oh,
that.
don't.
I'll be
Oh my
honest,
God.
I despise it when people try and have a conversation with me during the footy. Like, like if I'm at the match and you
Yeah.
every now and again you'll get a chatty one. So I bear in mind I don't mind talking to anyone, but when I'm watching the match, I'm like zoned in, and I can't have like a full blown conversation with anyone because it's like I concentrate so much on it, and it's like. To be fair though, like the people around me, I know everyone, but I tend to not speak to anyone. I just like speak what I'm thinking, just out into the ether, rather than like, what are you doing tonight and how's your week been? Do you know what I mean?
I've been to some ways where normally you're at the end and you with your mates or whatever, and you're standing at the end and you've got a fella like that next to you, and chatting away about, and you just like, you don't want to be rude, but you're just like, "Mate, I'm here with me, mate, just leave me alone." I've had that a couple of times and got off for a pint, well before half time, just to ignore it all. But yeah, I know what you mean about the talking through films thing, or TV shows. I'm like, especially if I've seen it and I want someone else to watch it to appreciate it, and then they start talking, I'm like, "You're missing out.
Yeah.
Watch." That infuriates me. No. And Dave, anything trivial that triggers you?
Well, just quickly on the pictures as well. It's when someone has the phone on.
Yeah,
Not the sound of it, but you can see the light because it's dark.
the
Obviously,
blue
when you're watching the
light.
film, that does me head in. I've got two here. The last one is nuts, and like I don't know if anybody even think I'm a normal person when I say, but the first one, you referred to queues a lot. I can't stand going on holiday and getting on a plane and the queue to get on the plane. So I'm talking about, you go and sit in the area for them to pull forward what your number is on your ticket to get on the plane. I can't stand it when to get into whatever it is to sit in the waiting room, when you're sitting in the lounge before you get announced your number to go on the plane. When yours is announced, it's like there's a sprint to get to the top of the queue, so you get in quickly like that. right? The other side of it is when they say, section 1, whatever, please come, you're welcome to get on the plane, whatever it is. And then it'll say section 2, and you'll have people ready on the toes, ready to go. And I've done it a couple of times. I've said, like, when you got, like, obviously, like, disabled people get on airplanes, you still get people running in front of them and all that. I'm like so many times, I've just been fucking ready, fuming that much to just say, fucking sit down and go one by one. Just go one by one. Why is it that plane's not getting off when you're not on it?
Do you know
Simple as that.
when you've especially got your own seat as well?
Yeah,
I've had it before where I've been bumped up. It's like a section or two, and sat in like a nice seat and whatever. And it says like section 2 can queue up and go in, and there's like 7 sections or whatever. And
yeah,
I've waited till the last person in section 7 has got it, and
yeah,
I'll start
yeah,
behind them. Because, like you said, all I'm doing is sitting on the plane. I'm not going to move any. I'm not going to do
yeah,
anything. And
exactly.
then by the time I got on, they closed the door, and it's like 10 minutes, if that, before it takes off. So
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
why do you need to rush to the front to just sit in the seat that you're going to be sitting
Correct,
in for 2 hours
correct.
anyway? Yeah,
And that's it.
I'm with
You
you.
put your luggage. You put your luggage on the top as well, right? That's the only thing I think where it might be
That's probably it,
slightly
isn't it? People putting
slightly
luggage.
relevant.
Yeah,
If the luggage there, or you'd have to put it under your seat. But my word, getting on a plane, that plane's not getting off any sooner because you get on it
no.
quicker. And then the second thing for me is dryers in your house.
Right.
You dry your clothes.
Yeah. Tumble
It's
dryer.
2020. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's 2024, right? And I don't know if it's just mine because it's a bit older or whatever, but we only got this about 6 months ago, right? So it's a modern day dryer. The noise out of a
Oh,
dryer.
yeah. Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
on earth? I'm sitting in there watching the telly or something like that, and they left the door open to the kitchen, and you can hear a loud noise from that dryer, and I'm thinking, it's 2024. Why is that not silent?
Well,
The
speaking of
the
planes, Dave, speaking of planes, I've been on planes where the noise of the engine isn't as loud as the noise of a tumble dryer.
the That's the other thing as well. I find the noise on planes quite relaxing, to be honest with you. Obviously, if you're not trying to get like, so obviously we went to Vegas to get married last year. Obviously, it's like a 10, 11 hour flight. And like people around, and like Haley saying to me, I can't get to sleep because of that noise. And I'm like, no, I like a bit of that, me. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a calm noise. And the other thing is, I'm glad it's still going because it means the plane's still flying. But yeah, dryers, mate. Dryers are probably just in front of planes. Though dryers in the house when I'm trying to relax, read a book, anything like that, mate. I go obviously turn it off. But then if you turn it off, your clothes aren't dry for what you're gonna do in the night. So
Well, the
sort dryers out.
good news is spring's on its way, summer's on
Yeah.
its way eventually. I'm looking out of my window now and there's a big, thick, overcast grey cloud, so we might have to wait a little bit longer. But soon enough, we'll be able to put the washing on the line and we won't have to
That's
put up with
it.
tumble dryers.
That's it.
Going to move away from England flag, boring gate now and talk about another question that's come in from our very own Matt Jones. And this is a cracking question, this. I really like this question. We might need a bit of time to think about this if you haven't done it already, but he's asked us, Germany swapping from Adidas to Nike is frankly disgusting. I agree, Matt.
Mm.
What what other awful football combinations are there?
Again, mate, I think it's just been built towards me for controversies, but I can't stand Hummel. I think Hummel is
Hummel,
woeful.
Hummel and Everton.
Hummel, yeah, I think Hummel's woeful. I think Umbro's woeful. Um, and maybe it is a marketing thing, but I don't mind Nike. I thought when we had Nike for that one year we just referred to with the badge, we had it for 2 seasons, I think it was. I just think like the quality of what you get as well. Like if I was getting a pair of footy boots, I'm getting Nike Legends boots. Do you know what I mean? I didn't mind it when we had Puma. I think for that one season or the 2 seasons, when we had the relatively simple kits. But yeah, I mean, Hummel and these modern day ones. What have we got now? Castore coming forward.
Apparently so,
That's
yeah, if you
yeah,
believe what you
that's
Yeah, it's
read.
the
that's going to be
worst.
dreadful. I don't mind Under Armour. I think that's okay because I wear a lot of that gear anyway. Obviously, all depends on what the kit's going to look like. But people have been raving about Hummel. The one thing that anyway, good mate of ours, Jack Carlisle, me and him, has just been laughing our heads off because we've seen what you can buy on the shop on the website is a pair of Hummel with the Everton badge on trainers, right? And they're 90 quid. They're 90 quid and they're not leather. You can just tell they're the most blag trainers you could get that aren't leather at all. So I can't wait for Hummel to go. But having said that, I'll be sat here in a year's time fuming that we've got Castore who just look like who's it? Rangers have got them, haven't they?
Villa had them, yeah, and
Everyone's getting rid of them because they're
Newcastle,
crap.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I have a big. I think Matt's question is brilliant there, but he most certainly will not agree with what I've said. But the opening question there, that is a disgrace that Germany have got rid of
Yeah,
Adidas. That is mind blowing.
that's like football history. You know, when you think of like the
Yeah,
copper boots and the Kaiser boots and stuff like that, Germany is ingrained in Adidas, and yet it is disgusting. Pete, you were shaking your head vigorously there at Dave's comments
he
about
loves
Hummel.
Hummel. I bet he loves Hummel.
I
So
do, yeah.
you
I
like
like I
Hummel?
like I like Hummel because I think they make an actual effort
I
with
agree. I
the
agree.
teams. I think each team, at least two out of the three kits for each team is going to be individual and it's going to be thought out and there's going to be some effort put into it. And I feel like we've probably had the nicest kits that we've had for a long, long time since Hummel have come in. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I think the likes of Nike, Adidas, although yeah, you might say are they a more popular brand? Yeah, I'd say that. I've got a wearing a Nike cap here myself. But Nike and the likes of them rip fans off. Absolutely rip fans off. I despise
How?
them.
How? In what regard?
Well, just going very quickly back to the England kit, they brought out two, haven't they? They brought like what the players wear, which is 120 odd quid.
It's horrendous.
And
That.
then
Yeah.
they brought out like what do they call it? Like a stadium shirt or something, which is 80.
Yeah.
So they've got two versions of it, but even that, I mean, 80 quid for
They
a
charge you
football
80
kit.
quid for basically for a knockoff shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but how much a
And
Hummel one? A Hummel one's still expensive.
yeah, but Hummel don't sell £125 one just so it's the
Which
same as the players.
Castore, I believe, do as well, don't they?
Castore
Castore
do
gonna
it.
do,
Castore do it.
yeah,
Nike do it. And what they do is they make it noticeably different as well. So what they get away with it by calling the stadium on a replica one.
yeah.
But they
Yeah.
make it so that the badge is different, or they make it so that the night ticket is different, or they make it.
Yeah.
It's not just the material; it's actually looks different, and that's the disgusting bit about it. And Castore do it, and I think it's going to be disgusting when we get Castore, to be honest with you,
Mm.
because they will absolutely rip fans off. And
It's
not add on to the fact as well, at least Nike and that have got a good history of using decent materials, even if they are going to rip you off for having them. Castore don't. Castore
mm.
are the worst of the worst when it comes to that because they charge you top end prices, but they have bargain basement materials that they use that are the vile. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you know the minority of that as well? I think you see on Twitter. I think there's one guy that follows us. It's brilliant. He actually collects the shirts. A lot of
Mm,
people use that as a hobby. They collect like every shirt you've seen.
mm.
Imagine how much you've got to lay out for that sort of thing, like you've said there. And that is a total rip off what you've said there, mate. The way you can, it's almost like footy boots, wasn't it? You can get the Adidas Predators for like they're about 300 quid these days. But if you wanted like the semi replica ones, they go down by 80 quid.
Yeah.
And you want the original ones that are basically plastic. They're the cheapest, but they're still like 40, 50 quid. I think that's like just general football. You're getting ripped off all over the place for stuff. But that on the kits, mate, that's a disgrace. That absolute disgrace.
Well,
yeah.
do you know, I was just going to say there, I know a few people have called on like us to get some, obscure kits or obscure makes or whatever. But one of the things I've always banged the drum about for the last few years, and I wish more people had suggested it, and I have to give credit to Brentford who do this. I wish they go back to doing a new kit every 2 years. So when I
Yeah.
was a
Yeah,
kid, when I first started going '93, we just brought out the new kit then, and we didn't have a new kit till '95. So it
yeah,
should be every 2 years you bring one
yeah,
out. But just to round off Matt's question there before we go to a break, Matt's saying what awful combinations are there in football. For me, Joey Barton and football punditry, that's a terrible combination. But listen, what we're going to do now, because we have got a few more questions we're going to go to. We're going to have a little break where if you're watching on YouTube, the ads will come in. For some reason, Les is always interested to know what ads you have come up for the show. So if you're watching us on YouTube at the minute and you come to the ad break, let us know what your ads are. Tweet us. Tweet Les, actually. Don't tweet us. Tweet Les, because Les wants to know
Yeah.
about them specifically.
Les
We're
loves
going to
the
go off.
X-rated ones, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, they don't
Pure
always
X
come
and
up.
all that.
They don't always come up, apparently. But, if they do, if you're one of them, you can, submit
If
your...
you're one of them.
If you're, if you're
If
that
you're one
person,
of them likes
if you're,
adverts.
if you're one of them people who have them adverts, then submit it anonymously to Les, just to let him know for some reason he's interested in it. Anyway, we're going to have a break. We're going to get a brew. We'll be back shortly, and we've got a few more questions to go through. We're going to move a bit away from England flag gate because I think that's dominated the first part of the show, and we're going to continue with mailbag. So, yeah, go off and do what you need to do. If you're driving in the car, hope you're having a nice journey so far. If you're walking along, hope you've got us in your ears and you're enjoying the walk you've got going. And we'll be back shortly. See you in a minute.